Well, good morning. Welcome to the channel. My name is Jim Ferguson. I've got a very interesting guest here with me today. His name is Niall McConnell. Welcome to the channel, Niall. How are you?
Thanks very much for having me on, Jim. I'm very grateful for you asking me to come on for an interview.
No, it's my absolute pleasure. And I mean, I also had the pleasure of meeting you, all but briefly, when I was across in Ireland at the march, where there was about 10,000 Irish patriots marching from the Garden of Remembrance. And what a day that was. And of course, it was nice for you to come up and introduce yourself then. And I've been meaning to get in contact before now. It's just been incredibly busy. But you've got some great channels. I mean, you're on here on X, and we'll be putting this up into the editing. But you've also got other channels where people can find your work. Let's talk about that. Where else do you operate from?
So I post regular or daily videos, brand new videos every single day on my YouTube channel, X, Telegram, BitChute, you name it, all them social media channels. I post every single day. I do a live stream at 8 o'clock UK Irish time at 8 p.m. Tuesday, Thursday, Sundays, kind of covering the news. I'm on social media. I'm very, very active, posting brand new content every single day. I suppose I'm running in local elections, and that's the big issue that I'm talking about now. There's local elections in all over Ireland and European elections on June the 7th. So I'm running in my local area of East Donegal, it's like the right the northwest of Ireland. And my area is Lifford Northern area, and I'm knocking on doors every single day of the week, bar our Lord's Day on Sunday. And I'm having a fantastic response because immigration is the hot topic at the minute. Every poll that's done, I think 80, there's a poll, the most recent poll done, 80%, 80% of the Irish people want immigration stopped, or they believe that we've brought in far too many. Because at the minute in Ireland, we have open borders, uncontrolled mass immigration. It's the floodgates are open, and people are fed up with it.
Well, I mean, first of all, there's a bit to unpack there, but you've done some fantastic work here on as a citizen journalist, as an independent. I mean, you are very active, and I would encourage anybody that wants to know what's going on in Ireland right now, and you need to know what's going on in Ireland right now, because Ireland is at the forefront. They are the battleground, as we will discover as we go into this program a little bit further. And if you watch Neil and you listen to what he's saying, he's addressing these issues. So I would definitely give him a follow. As I say, Niall, these links will be getting put up into the editing so people can actually find where you are. Now, you're standing in the local elections. That's another thing that impresses me a lot, because a lot of people talk about these issues, you know. There are a lot of so-called freedom fighters out there in Twitter and in other social media, and they all talk about this and they all talk about that. But what really impresses me is when people actually do things, and you're doing things. You are out there, you're walking on the marches, you're taking part in those street events, and you're also out campaigning to get elected at the elections, as you say, on June the 7th. And if you get elected, what were the sort of things that you'd be looking to do in your own particular community? What are the main concerns? I mean, I know immigration's a big one, but what other things are maybe on people's minds there in your own local area?
Um, just before we talk about what I will try and do, because you mentioned something very important there, Jim, that
Sure.
not only do I talk to talk, I walk to walk. The majority of people, unfortunately, who complain to me, will not get out there and get active, either hand out leaflets or flyers, or never mind running in elections. Because anybody listening here, you just need to get active in your local area, whether it be America, Canada, UK. Help out your local nationalist person running in the elections, or just go out and hand out flyers about maybe immigration or abortion, whatever your policies or your political leanings lie. You have to get out there and get active. Like my address is Castlefin, Lifford, County Donegal. My name is Niall McConnell. I'm not afraid. Like, there's nothing wrong with putting your face out there, put your name out there. Nothing's going to happen to you. So anyway, that's that. Now, my policies, I suppose, number one is immigration. My county of Donegal, we have taken in by per capita per county the most in any other county in Ireland, even more than Dublin per capita, the amount of people here. And we're up in the northwest. Where Donegal is called the Forgotten County because it's quite isolated and tucked in behind the north of Ireland, and probably the most impoverished county. And there's no money pumped in here at all. So my message is very clear to the electorate. I will look after the local Irish people first. Stop pandering to everybody else. Housing is a big crisis In Donegal alone, there's 2,600 Irish on the housing waiting list, but a lot of the Irish see foreign nationals getting preferential treatment, and they're getting homed ahead of the Irish. I was speaking to a lady last week in Ballybofey. She's on the housing waiting list for 21 years. She can't get a house. And people who are just off the planes who get medical cards on arrival, the majority of the Irish people can't get medical cards. She's housed immediately, free social welfare, free housing, transportation, healthcare, free food, you name it. They free clothes, they get it for free, and our Irish have to watch this as we suffer. So my message is very clear to the local Irish people in the Finn Valley, East Donegal. Priority is to the local Irish people, and healthcare too is another thing. People have to wait 2, 3, 4 weeks to get to see a doctor, and it's because of the increase in the population in my area. I think we should, restrict immigration coming in now. Look after our own Irish people first. Charity begins at home, as I always say.
Well, I think there's a lot of people around the world would agree with you on that basis. I'm very glad that you mentioned the international aspect to this, because you've recognized that this isn't just an Irish problem. Although I will say, having looked at it from the Welsh side, from the English side, from the Scottish side, I will say, whilst it's a problem for us as well on the UK mainland, it's also a bigger problem, I would say, in Ireland right now. And I went to Roscrea when I was over there just a couple of months ago, I think it was. And I was taken around a lot of different places, and I was absolutely shocked at what I saw, Niall. I mean, these are sometimes they're small communities of maybe 1,000 or something like that, with 600-700 migrants in the local hotel. They are being completely swamped. And the other thing that people must wake up very, very fast to is the fact that these aren't women and children migrants. These are illegal migrants comprised of about 98 to 99% of young men, 25 to 35-year age bracket. And there have been people in the UK, and I think in Ireland as well, who are saying, wait a minute, this is like a standing army that's coming in here. Why is the government doing this? But you're right to mention the international connection here, because it is happening really all over the world. And I'm going to maybe get your thoughts on what you think is maybe going on and why that is happening. But America's southern border is wide open. And let's face it, there's a lot of people in America watch this channel, and there's a lot of people with Irish connections in the USA and in Canada and indeed around the world. Ireland is not alone, Niall. That I can tell you. And as a Scottish Highlander, looking back in history, I'm not aware of any conflict between Scotland and the Irish people. In fact, I think we're all part of the same Celtic heritage. And indeed, we've got a deep affection for everybody in Ireland, whether you're in the north or whether you're in the south. Although I have an ancient family connection to the south, I have to say, which I'm very proud of. And, I was made very, very welcome when I went across to Southern Ireland. And I really do feel for the people there. But the problems that you're facing are extreme. What do you think is the reason? Why is the Irish government putting illegal migrants? These are not legal people. These are illegal migrants that are pouring into Ireland. Why are they putting their interests ahead of the Irish people who pay the taxes? They're law-abiding citizens. They're part of Irish culture. And yet these people that are coming in have got no identity with Ireland. They've got no affection for Ireland. Why are they doing this? What do you think is really going on? What's behind it, Niall? What do you think?
Well, Ireland is an ancient land. We're an ancient people. We're a very unique people because we live on an island. And like you said already, the Scotch and the Irish we're cousins at the end of the day. And I'm always preaching unity with our Protestants and our Ulster Scotch Presbyterians in North of Ireland, because there's a million Protestants in the North of Ireland, and I'm always trying to break down the old divide of Protestants versus Catholic during we went through a war in the Troubles, and I don't want to go back to the old days. And at the end of the day, we have a lot more common with the Ulster Scot Protestants in the north of Ireland compared to illegal immigrants coming in from Africa who have no connection to, no loyalty to the land or to the island of Ireland. So I want to say that, and make that message very, very clear all the time, that I have nothing against my Ulster Scots Presbyterian Protestant cousins who live on the island of Ireland, who love Ireland, who want to defend Ireland, and who share the same values as the rest of the Catholics in the south of Ireland. Though they're Christian, they're against immigration, they're against this radical LGBT stuff they're teaching in schools. They're anti-abortion. So I just want to make that very, very clear to anybody who might think I'm sectarian. I'm not sectarian at all. And you're asking the question, why is the elite doing this to Ireland? Well, it's a good question, but I don't think, the Leo Varadkar, Simon Harris, the heads, the puppets of Ireland are in control. We are being controlled by the European Union, the World Economic Forum, the WHO. Like, Ireland is completely captured at the minute. The vast majority of our laws, I think 85% of our laws, are coming from the European Union. We gave up one foreign power, the British Empire, for another foreign power, the European Union. So, like, I've been advocating to leave the European Union for a long time. Ireland, right, has probably the largest fishing territory rights in Europe. We've a vast fishing territory, but Irish fishermen only have a 15% quota in our own waters. That's scandalous. So we need to get back our fishing rights. We need to get back control over our borders. Ireland is about to opt into this new EU migration pact. And, like, we actually have in our constitution the right to opt out, and they're not putting this referendum to the Irish people, because the Irish people will vote probably 95% against it. So the Irish state are being traitorous, opting us into this new EU migration pact. And if we opt in, we're handing over our immigration policies or sovereignty over to the European Union superstate, and they will be enforcing immigration onto the Irish people. And if we say no, I think if we refuse one migrant, we get fined 20,000 per year per migrant for every migrant that we refuse. So we are effectively going to be blackmailed by the European Union. The list goes on about the problems about being memberships of the European Union. No, they control our monetary system, they control our fishing industry, they have a stranglehold on our agricultural industry. They just have a complete they've captured Ireland, and we need to, in my opinion, leave the European Union as soon as possible.
Well, when I'd followed Nigel Farage for a long time when he was in the European Parliament, and I was never connected to him, but I did admire his wit and his rapier-like ability to strike at the heart of these Europhiles, and he did it incredibly successfully. And when he announced that he was creating the Brexit Party, I went down to Coventry to the Steelworks to see at the launch, and I was there. In fact, I was actually on the stage I think it was kind of by accident, really, but I was actually on the stage when Nigel came out on the stage itself and declared it. And I was like, when they spoke to me afterwards, and invited me to apply, I did, and of course I then went on and I fought for what I would term British independence against the EU. So I totally understand where you're coming from. But the EU is one of the most undemocratic institutions going. They are globalists at the end of the day. And Ireland already voted not to join the EU, and then they made them vote again and again until they got the vote that they wanted. And that's how the EU works. They bully people, they trample on people, and they keep the pressure up. And they're constantly putting their own people in through other organizations like, as you've mentioned, the World Economic Forum, which infiltrates global governments and their parliaments, not just in the governments themselves, but also in the parliaments, so that they've always got their men and women in post. And that's what's really going on. That's why we're seeing these problems with mass illegal immigration all around the world, because those countries are indeed being systematically targeted. And it's for a reason, Niall. You all probably already know this because you're an astute young man who has very much got your finger on the pulse of geopolitical affairs worldwide. But it's a takeover. There is a global one world government that they seek to establish, and it's very much almost there. And we've got to stand up and take back power for our communities and our families and our respective countries. And I'm delighted to hear you talk about the fact that everybody needs to work together, not just our Irish nationalists and patriots in Ireland, but indeed in Scotland and England and Wales, because we're all in this fight together. And the common enemy, and I know and I appreciate that there are old historical things. We must never forget our history. And Ireland has had a tough history. They've been through some tough and difficult times. But right now, and going forward into the future, it's about unity, working together. Patriots all over the world standing shoulder to shoulder with every Irish nationalist, with every Irish patriot, whether you're from England, Wales, Scotland, or indeed any other part of the world, because it's the only way that we're going to beat them. Now, I want to ask you something because it's quite concerning. I've been covering the vaccine mandates. I'm not sure what your thoughts are on all of that. But when we saw the brutalisation of the people in Canada and in Australia, in particular the state of Victoria under Dan Andrews, another World Economic Forum maniac, it was deeply upsetting. Now, I've seen some pictures coming out of Ireland, and there's been some talk about cross-border policing going on. Are there police officers coming down from the north of Ireland to police Southern Irish citizens that you're aware of, Niall?
I've seen some things on social media that allows the PSNI, the police from Northern Ireland, to apply to become a Garda Síochána, a police member of the south of Ireland. It doesn't surprise me one bit, and I think vice versa too. Both can apply to each other. But Ireland right now, the head of the Garda Síochána is a God, what's his name now? God, his name evades me now. Simon Harris. He used to be the head of the PSNI, that he was the head of the Northern Ireland Police, and now he's in Ireland heading heading the Irish Police. So the Irish are not too happy with that, because of he would have had to swear an oath to the King or the Queen of England. So the Irish aren't too happy with that. But not only that, he's coming down very, very heavy on protesters who are protesting against immigration. We saw shocking scenes there in Newton Mount Kennedy in County Wicklow, where locals, grandmothers, mothers, sons, daughters were protesting outside a site, a wee small town, where there was going to put a few hundred of these young military-aged men into it. And the Simon Harris sent in the Irish police force, the riot squad, and started battering people with batons and pepper spray, and people got viciously assaulted. They had the helicopters out there. Effectively, the town was called, or martial law was called in the town. The riot police were going through the wee small town, attacking anybody who was on the streets. I know the Americans wouldn't have been happy with that. That would have been unconstitutional, but in Ireland, they can do whatever they want, it seems. So this is what's happening in Ireland now, with helicopters flying. They're forcing a new plantation on the Irish people. There's been never any referendum on it. And Simon Harris is coming down really, really hard now. And he was former head of the Northern Ireland police force in Ireland. So there is a cross-border, like there is people from the north applying to the south now as members of the Garda Síochána, yes.
Interestingly enough, and perhaps even more shockingly, it would appear that the globalist infiltrated Irish government are also encouraging illegal migrants to join their police force and to apply to become police officers to govern and to police the Irish people, certainly in the south. Have you heard this?
Yeah, no, there's a big recruitment going on regarding they're in mosques recruiting Muslims to join the Garda Síochána. They're everywhere. They're trying to, because probably 99% of the Gardaí, the Irish police force, are ethnically Irish, white Irish. So they're trying to diversify. It's the old long walk through the institutions. The teaching is another thing. Like 99.9% of teachers in Ireland are Irish, and they're trying to change the law actually regarding teaching. Right now, I think you have to be able to speak the Irish language to the basic Irish to become a teacher, and they're trying to remove that because a lot of these foreigners coming into Ireland, they can't speak the Irish language, and they actually did that with the Irish police force as well. You had to speak the Irish language to a basic extent to become an Irish police member, but they removed that to allow again foreigners to apply to become members of the Irish police force. So it's the long walk through the institutions. They're trying to bring in more diversity into the schools, teaching, civil service. They're trying to, like, diversity means less of you, Irishman, or if it's diversity in England, less English people. That's what diversity means, so less of you.
And when you say the Irish language, I mean, you've got a form of Gaelic or Gaelic. I don't know how you pronounce it, but we would tend to call it Gaelic. We've got Scottish Gaelic. You've also got a form of Irish Gaelic, haven't you? Is that what you were referring to in terms of the Irish language?
Yes, well, there's different dialects. There's Donegal, there's Ulster, there's Galway, there's Cork. There's different dialects, absolutely. And you have your own dialect in the Highlands. We probably couldn't understand each other, but there is different forms of Gaelic. And that shows another example how we are actually cousins. We historically have spoken the same language. The Scotch have spoken a form of Gaelic. We speak a form of Gaelic. So breaking down the old divide again, we actually are cousins. There's been a lot of, you know, migration between the Scotch and the Irish for
Yeah.
thousands and thousands of years.
A lot of trade, a lot of mutual assistance going on. And if you go deep enough into the history, it's amazing what that connection was with Ireland. Of course, we mustn't forget the Welsh as well, because the Welsh are part of that heritage as well. They also have very close links to the Scots and the Irish. They are a Celtic people as well, Celtic nation. So there are some deep bonds between us all here in these British Isles. But it's important that we recognise what is actually really going on now. And in terms of, it might surprise you to know, for example, that in Canada, they are doing very similar things with their military and police, because there are certain guidelines and certain things that you have to be able to do. For example, you have to be able to speak English. Well, they're taking that out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is happening. So Justin Trudeau is another arch World Economic Forum maniac, globalist, who has brutalized the Canadian people. And what he's doing there, and it's interesting because, I'll explain why I've come across all of this, but basically what they're looking to do is to take these non-Canadian citizens into the military and into the police, get rid of the natural born people that are there and fill their ranks with these other people that are coming in, because they know that the loyalty of those people will not be to the Canadian people, and it won't be to the Irish people. It will be to the globalist New World Order people, and they'll do their bidding. And that's what we're witnessing going on. Make no mistake about it. And the brutality that we saw in Canada, the Freedom Convoy and the Freedom protests that were going on there was off the scale. And these were peaceful protests, as I'm sure you'll know. Same in Australia. Australian people are fantastic people. I've spent time and lived in Australia for a period of time as well. And I can assure you, they did not deserve to get what happened to them any more than the Irish people deserve to have what's happening to them. And the latest insult to Irish people is that if you protest, apart from being called names like you're a far right, you're a racist, etc., etc., I mean, we've all been called those names. There's absolutely no truth to it. The people I met in Ireland, they are just ordinary men and women and children who want to live their lives in peace and not have their communities decimated by tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of illegal migrants coming in and flooding their communities. Crime levels off the chart, stabbings of children, rapes of women, murders. It's appalling what we're seeing. But what are we going to do? So, I mean, the other biggest insult is now they're calling you terrorists. Have you heard this, Niall?
Yeah, well, that's a good point you're making there. So, County Derry, or the city of Derry, it's in the north of Ireland, and they've just not elected, they've selected a new mayor, a Black Lives Matter activist, a so-called Kenyan refugee, but I don't know where she's fleeing in Kenya, an economic migrant. So, long story short, there is a process to become mayor. The party who were going to become, or they could select a member from their party, the SDLP. They're supposed to put nominations forward. There's three people put their name forward, and they're supposed to go to a vote of the party who they think is best to represent the people. But it didn't go to this vote, and the executive committee just selected this BLM activist to become mayor. And the rest of them a couple of them have resigned now over the fact that this woman was undemocratically elected, and now she she is actually in the past and doubled down recently on their comments that anybody who protests or is critical of immigration is terrorist or is domestic terrorist, using terms coming from America. So someone like me, she's calling a domestic terrorist. During the killing of George Floyd, she was outside City Hall doing the whole Black Lives Matter and taking the knee and all this nonsense, bringing in politics to Ireland that has no reason or being in Ireland, bringing in foreign politics, and everything about her is race. Everything. The whole thing is about race. And I was actually on the streets yesterday, canvassing in Ballybofey, and I spoke to a few people who are from Derry, and I asked their opinion about what do you think of the new mayor of Derry, and they're not happy because she was undemocratically elected. She was actually selected, and the people are not happy. Not even about her They didn't even know that she called people like me terrorists. When I informed them of that, they were very angry indeed. So this is what they're trying to do now. And in the elections, right, people mightn't realize this in Ireland. There's elections coming up now in June the 7th, 4 or 5 weeks. And illegal immigrants can run in elections, and they are running in elections. So you can come into Ireland, destroy your passport, and you can run in elections. You don't need a passport. You don't need anything. You can just run in elections. It's unbelievable. I can't understand why this is allowed. Even when you're registering to run as a political candidate, which I am, you don't need to bring your ID or passport or nothing, but you need your ID for everything else. But to run in elections, you don't need ID. You could be an illegal immigrant. You could have, God knows what you could have done. You could have been a mass murderer, but you can run in elections in Ireland. Unbelievable.
I'm shocked, Niall. I need you to run this past me again. Are you saying that illegal migrants can stand for election
Yeah, absolutely. And they are
in
standing
Ireland?
in election. Yeah,
Illegal migrants.
yeah, 100%.
I'm
All
stunned.
all you need to
I
be
didn't
is
know that.
the technical term is a resident. You need to be a resident, and a resident is defined as someone living in Ireland for 6 months. So now, like in my leaflet here for my election campaign, I'm just reading it. 87% of asylum seekers arriving in Ireland are destroying passports. That's coming from the Minister of Justice herself, Helen McEntee. 87. So they're arriving in Ireland, either throwing their passports in the toilet on the plane, but for some reason they say themselves they're arriving with handlers, with agents. So probably some kind of NGO is arriving with these migrants, and they're either destroying passports, so we can't do background checks on them. We don't know who they are. They're immediately, right, given PPS numbers. It's like in the UK, it's national insurance number.
Mm.
In America, but the social security number. In Ireland, it's called a PPS number. They're immediately given a PPS number. And I have a stat here too, right? So 77% of new PPS numbers were allocated to foreign nationals in 22 in Ireland. So 77% of new PPS numbers were given to foreign nationals. So think about that in the UK of national insurance numbers or national insurance card numbers, or in America, social security numbers. So 77% of new PPS numbers were given to foreign nationals. This is foreign. We are being replaced in our own country, and then the far left will say we're conspiracy theorists when we say that there's a great replacement happening. And yes, you're right. Illegal immigrants can vote in Ireland. All you have to be is a resident, which means you have to live in the island of Ireland for 6 months, and then now you can run in elections. And there's a huge push to run foreigners
And
in elections. And actually, political parties get funded if you sign up to this ENAR diversity NGO scheme. You get funded. And so I actually ran in 2020 in the general election, in the larger election, not the local council election. And I remember I got a letter through the post asking me to come in and sign this anti-racism protocol, that I wouldn't speak about immigration, or I wouldn't speak about
wow.
any racism. And I was the only one in my whole constituency not to sign it. Everybody else signed it. And all the political parties have signed up to Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, Sinn Féin. For those of you who are listening, mostly the American audience who think Sinn Féin are Irish nationals or Irish Republicans or Irish freedom fighters, they are not. They're Marxist, communists, Leninists. They are open borders, mass immigration. I actually have their policy on immigration here, Sinn Féin, right? Sinn Féin, right? This is they passed this motion at their Ardèche. Sinn Féin will work for the achievement of the optimum position of no restriction on immigration into Ireland. So that's their policy, Sinn Féin. Do not be funding Sinn Féin, because they are using it to replace us. They are running diversity candidates. They are promoting this LGBT nonsense in schools, abortion, immigration, you name it. They are pushing it. They're globalist internationals. They are not Irish Republicans. Stop supporting Sinn Féin.
You know, at one time, Ireland had this strong nationalist core to it, and I think, being an outsider, and please correct me if I get this wrong, Niall, but certainly the perception was that Sinn Féin was the political arm of the Irish Republican Army, the IRA that formed the 1916 the uprising, and um, I think looking anybody outside of the Irish mix that's not aware of what's going on would probably think that Sinn Féin were the nationalists, they were the good guys, but they're not. And it's the same in Scotland. We've just got rid of, I was going to say, good riddance to Hamza Yusuf. I like to call him Hamza Useless, because he was one of the worst first ministers of Scotland, probably even more so than Nicola Sturgeon, and that's saying a lot. People talk about Scottish independence. I mean, that's all well and good, but you cannot be independent if you also want to be governed by the EU, and that's exactly what the SNP, the Scottish National Party, want here in Scotland. People are waking up to the fact that it's fake independence that they've been touting, just as Sinn Féin are fake Irish nationalists. They've got nothing for the Irish people. When you go back, let's go back to what you said about 80% of the Irish people are concerned about immigration, but do they understand what it is that's actually happening and what these globalist tentacles that's going on behind the scenes? Do they get that yet, or are they still kind of in the dark about it?
No, they don't seem to understand it, because when I'm knocking on door to door, the Irish people who are there, the majority of them are not happy now. Like 80% of them are not happy. But they tell me at the start, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when the immigration really started to happen, that they thought that it was okay. We're looking after people who are fleeing wars, and they were believing all the nonsense that the mainstream media were spouting, that these poor people are fleeing wars. But now they see mostly, like you say, military-aged men on the streets, and they have brand new clothes, they get free medical cards, they get social welfare, they get free housing, and they're thinking something's not adding up here. Like my son, my daughter, she can't get a house. She's still living at home with me, and that's another thing. Like I have it here, another stat. I've just loads of stats. Um, where is it? Well, it's 70% of youngsters, right, in their late 20s are still living at home with their parents. So there's a huge housing crisis in Ireland, and when I'm knocking on door to door, the youngsters in their 20s, in their late 20s, early 30s, are still living at home with their parents, and they're seeing the migrants, they're receiving all the houses. Any houses that are going to non-Irish. And people,
Mm-hmm.
the Irish people are getting quite bitter, and they're not happy. At the start, they thought, "Oh, this is great. We're looking after these poor refugees," but now they're seeing their own suffer, and the tide is turning. The Irish people are starting to wake up. But regarding, do they know why this is happening? I don't think they're quite there yet. They don't know why they're doing this. There is a bit of confusion there. Why would the powers that be flood the country with illegal immigrants? And a lot of them are actually saying they're taking over. They are taking over. They're looking to get them into the Garda Síochána, teaching all the institutions, like Leo Varadkar, who was our Taoiseach at the head of our government. He's Indian. He's resigned now, but they're trying to take over, and a lot of people are actually seeing it, but a lot of people don't actually understand what's happening quite yet.
And you mentioned the mainstream media. I mean, RT is one of the most corrupt, despicable mainstream news outlets that I'm aware of in Ireland. When 10,000 patriots turn up, they say 400 turn up. They always downplay it. They refer to you as racists, bigots, xenophobes, terrorists, and they are doing a huge disservice. They're a bit like the lying BBC here in the UK. Once a credible news organisation, now a completely discredited, woke, ideologically infiltrated, globalist loving and supporting institution that are doing nothing but a disservice to the Brits. So, I mean, I hear you, and it's great to see that you are pushing back. We need more people like you, not just in Ireland, but indeed around the world, and calling it out for what it is. Um, what's your sort of take on the going back to the elections just for a moment, Niall? Do you think that there is an appetite for change? I mean, are the people seeing through the likes of these fake nationalists, the Sinn Féin? What about Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, because they're part of the political mix as well? I suppose tradition's a hard thing to overcome in many respects, but do you think people are starting to say, "Hey, wait a minute, we need people that are true Irish nationalists, true Irish patriots standing up"? I mean, what do you think? We haven't got long to go until June the 6th, June the 7th. What's your feeling telling you? I mean, are you getting positive feedback from people? I know you said 80% are getting raising concerns, but can that be turned into a political win for yourself and others that support you?
Absolutely, because you look at the polls, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, they have dropped massively. Sinn Féin have dropped too. Sinn Féin are still the most popular political party, but they have took a big hit because of their support on immigration. And Sinn Féin are the main opposition party to the Irish government right now, but they've probably been the worst opposition party in the Irish state since it founded in 1922 and 1922, sorry. And so, like, for example, Sinn Féin supported the lockdowns, the scamdemic. And when Sinn Féin were telling everybody to stay at homes and get your jab, our political movement, we actually delivered 17.5 tons of food aid all over Ireland, north and south, to Protestant and Catholic, didn't matter your political affiliation. We were delivering food aid. That's what we were doing. Sinn Féin have supported. I know I'm hammering Sinn Féin all the time, but they need a good hammer. Sinn Féin supported immigration. They supported the lockdowns. They support the hate speech bill too. They're actually denying that they supported the hate speech bill. There's a really draconian hate speech bill that they're kind of
Yeah.
close to passing in the Irish government. Sinn Féin
Mhm.
supported it the whole way. Some opposition political party. So Sinn Féin has supported the government on everything. So they've taken a real serious hit. And people like me, who's an independent, independents have shot up massively. Now we're the second most popular, suppose, political movement, I suppose. We're actually up there now on par with Fine Gael, who have historically have
Wow.
always been the largest political party in Ireland. So we're like we went from like 4 or 5% 4 or 5 years ago. Now we're up at 20%.
Oh, wow.
Independents are more likely to be anti-immigration and
Right.
right wing, I
And
suppose.
do you think? I mean, obviously, I've spoken to quite a number of independents that are standing, and they've all got very similar views. Do you think there might become? Do you think they might sort of join together in some kind of a coalition at some point if they did get elected? I mean, I would imagine that that would be something that would be sort of a natural progression. I suppose that could happen, could it?
Oh, it probably will. It probably will need to happen. There's some kind of there's an independence coalition at the minute, but I'm kind of skeptical of them because they kind of some of them are kind of they've signed up to this anti-racism protocol, for example.
Uh,
So that's a big red flag for me. So I
yeah.
don't know if they really are against immigration. We'll have to wait and see.
Mm.
But I'm hoping now this local elections, lots of good patriots, Irish nationalists get elected, and we can maybe go from there then.
All right. Well, as we approach the end of the segment, Niall, as we always do, I always give our guests the last final word here, and I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm going to offer you the same privilege, so you can talk about whatever it is you want to talk about, whatever's on your heart to say. Niall, the floor is indeed yours.
Thanks very much. Well, thanks for having me on, Jim. Really enjoyed the interview. So, my name is Niall McConnell. I am running in the local election in East Donegal. I've been active for 12 years. I checked my YouTube channel the last time. My YouTube channel is 12 years old. I ran in the 2020 general election, warning the people of my area about immigration. But now people are starting to listen to me. Like we have our own party newspaper, the Irish Patriot. We have delivered 17.5 tons of food aid to the Irish people during lockdowns. We are active on the streets. We're not keyboard warriors. We actually get out there on the streets. We're active. We campaigned the hardest for the two vote no referendums that came up recently. We gave the government a hammer and we delivered 150,000 leaflets nationwide all over Ireland. And we're out there on the streets. I'm on YouTube, Twitter, Telegram. Follow me on YouTube, Niall McConnell. Or Twitter X. We live stream Tuesday, Thursday, Sundays at 8 p.m. Irish time. I upload brand new content every single day of the week. Stop Irish Americans, particular, stop supporting Sinn Féin. Support real Irish Republicans like myself who wants Ireland to belong to the Irish, not to be handed over to foreigners. We are not internationalists. Sinn Féin are internationalists. They're Marxists. They're Leninists, Maoists, whatever you want to call them. They are not Irish Republicans. They might tell you that when they go over there, but believe you me, they are nothing of the sort. Stop supporting them and support Irish nationalists like myself, Niall McConnell. You can follow me YouTube, Telegram, Twitter, BitChute, Gab. I'm even on Gab, Niall McConnell, Niall McConnell. That's all I've got to say. Thanks very much for having me on, Jim.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm going to put all those links in. You send me a DM. I'm going to make sure all those links go in so that people can indeed follow you. You are a true Irish patriot. You are a true Irish nationalist, and you are a real freedom fighter, not a keyboard warrior, unlike so many that like to put out tweets or whatever they want to say, and they never do very much other than that, and they don't support fellow freedom fighters. You can spot them very easily. They're all about themselves. But we know, and I know, a true freedom fighter when I see one and when I meet one. And I had the great pleasure of meeting you and speaking with you, albeit briefly, on that march. But I'm delighted that you've been on the channel. Let's hope to have you. I would love to have you back again, Niall. Do you think that's something you'd be happy to do?
Absolutely. Maybe after the elections, maybe, and after in about a month or 5 weeks' time, sure, we can recap what happened in the election. Hopefully, I'm elected, and then we can say where we're going to go from there. Then,
Would it be Councillor
aye,
McConnell at that point? Aye,
hopefully,
yeah.
Councillor Niall McConnell.
Well, I would just like to say a huge thank you to you, Niall. It's been great to have you on. And I would just also say to the people that are watching this, especially those in Canada, the United States, and around the world, Here you've heard it from a real Irish patriot. Forget Sinn Féin, don't donate to them. They are fake Irish nationalists and they are harming the Irish people. You don't want to have anything to do with them, but you do want to be supporting independent freedom fighters like Niall McConnell and his colleagues in Ireland. And we wish you and the people in Ireland freedom and justice, and let's hope we can help you to turn things around. But my sincere thanks to each and every one of you who are watching this. As I always like to say, you guys are the real stars of this show. This is Jim Ferguson. We'll speak soon. Bye-bye for now.